to recalibrate my... who cares? Oh, all right. We are here in Connecticut, our last night of our stay in Connecticut. It's been fun. Thank you to everybody who said hi to us. But Alice, it has been whirlwind. It's been very tough to get stuff done. We got to manage our expectations. But this show that we're going to do right now is one that Alice thought of last week or 2 weeks ago, and it's one that I'm totally into. This is not political. This is generational. This is not, or it's political too.
There's some political stuff happening that I think ties in with it.
Yes, absolutely. And we had, as far as the Sunday shows, debt ceiling, found a bill, compromise, Republicans mad, Biden lied. But we'll get to some of that if we can. But Alice and I, and this is a great snapshot of where America was and is. Alice and I decided to watch the Martin Scorsese documentary on the Beatles called Beatles 64.
Can you adjust where you are in the camera?
Oh, I don't know where I am.
You see it on the Zoom?
No, I'm watching the waveforms. I'm not watching that. But I can adjust where I am. I can do that. Hold on. There we go. You want me to be more on the camera when I'm leaning?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay. We decided to watch the I gotta move this though. I can't see you. Am I still good?
Yeah, it's okay.
So, Beatles 64. It's about the Beatles' first trip to America.
I thought we were going to love it because we loved the
Yes.
Peter Jackson thing.
Exactly. And so, the Beatles 64 it's a bunch of footage. And if you're a Beatles crazy person, you've seen most of the stuff before. It's been cleaned up. It's been made to look beautiful. It's like the Beatles, Murray the K stuff, and when they stayed in Manhattan and did the Ed Sullivan Show, and then they went to Washington, D.C. and did their first real concert in the round. And all that stuff has been there. Mm-hmm. And then they went down to Miami, and then they went back to New York. But it's the Beatles coming to America, Beatlemania hitting. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is, if you saw the Peter Jackson thing, is that even if you've seen this stuff before, you're going to be presented it in a different way, cleaned up, as if it's contemporary, as if it's right now.
Right.
And visually, a lot of that stuff was great. And it was great to see. It was obviously cleaned up, etc. But, let me give you an example of this is like some of the stuff that you want to see. It's just the charisma of the guys, and kind of the magic they had. They really owned a room. They're all very funny. America was just finding out what these people were. I think that the conventional wisdom was from the media at the time and the adults is that this was a silly fad, and these guys were a gimmick with floppy hair and suits and bowing and harsh accents, but they weren't to be taken seriously as musicians. But your kids love them, so that was what was happening. Mm-hmm. So here's an example of when a documentary is doing what you're expected to do, showing the Beatles on their first big presser. When they're at, I guess at that point it was Idlewild Air. It was newly JFK Airport. If you're a Beatles guy, you've heard most of this. Let me just change this. It's still much. Sorry. Here you go.
Could you please sing something?
No! Sorry. Next script.
There's some doubt that you can sing.
No, we need money first.
Our psychiatrist recently sent you nothing but poor Elvis Presley.
Oh, it's not true. It's not true.
They're dancing.
What do you think your music does for these people?
Well, pleases them, I think. Well, they must do because they're buying it.
Why does it excite them so much?
We don't know, really. If we knew, we'd form another group and be managers.
Young fella, what's your ambition?
To go to America.
She said if you heard us all.
So that's how it starts. It's going. And okay, that's the charming stuff. You expect that the Beatles are magic, etc.
Although I did have red flags because the entire opening of the documentary is about the JFK assassination.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right.
Which I questioned because I was like, what are we doing? I mean, I realized that chronologically it's like
and that
right
is a scene
that.
setter for the Beatles, no doubt. And the harshness of that all unfolding live on TV, a month and a half before. Then the Beatles come here, and you've got these hard, grizzled reporters now who are having to deal with this in the news. These guys here, and they're absolutely charismatic, etc. But yes, and the moment a Beatles documentary or in anything to do with the '60s starts with JFK, then we know whose hands are all over it. The most
we know
important,
it's going to be a therapy session for a certain group of
exactly,
people.
the most important group of people to have ever roamed the earth. The group of people who invented drugs, invented sex, invented deep thinking, tripping, invented modern beat poetry. This group of people are the most precious group of people to have ever spawned on this planet. We all owe them everything. They invented everything. Anything cool, hip, funny, sad, dramatic, they all did. There was nothing. There was no piece of art and no piece of music that significantly did anything but was an air ball and that was a dud until right around 1963. Right around and then going on and on. And so this Beatles documentary immediately gets captured by we know who. Here's one of them.
My father just said, you're not going to watch the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, full stop. I'm commandeering the television. You're not going to watch it. It's like, you're such a fucking dick. I mean, my father was an abusive alcoholic, and he beat us.
Oh, you stepped on it. Hold on.
The television, you're not going to watch it. It's like, you're such a fucking dick. I mean, my father was an abusive alcoholic, and he beat us a lot. But not letting us watch the Beatles was worse than that. You know, you can get over beatings, but not letting us watch the Beatles. So my uncle, who was a Republican, none of us were Republicans, he sort of knew this is a big thing for these guys. So
the Republican showed heart for a moment.
I went over to his house on that Sunday, and I think my older sister went.
Okay, so that, needless to say, baby boomer is named Joe Queen, and apparently he's a writer or something. Who knows else? What do we know about Joe Queen, his father?
He was an abusive alcoholic. He's such a fucking dick.
He wouldn't let them watch the Beatles.
Right.
That's all you have to know. That's all you have to know
He
about
was meaner even than a Republican.
Right. That's his father.
Even a Republican knew that this was important.
His father's whole life story begins in the 1950s when this guy was trying to wear a coonskin cap watching the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse show. That's where it begins. That's all his father gets. The fact that his father may have been storming the beaches of Normandy or freezing in the Battle of the Bulge, or as a friend of mine, or as a caller said last week, about his father never talked about serving in World War II. And he said, Dad, will you tell me something? He's actually asked him in the 80s. He said, will you tell me something that you did one day? And he said, okay, well, they flew in a B-25 or whatever. And he said, my best friend was the tail gunner. And he said, and this is this guy's father talking to him the first time about World War II. And he said, we were getting attacked by German fighter planes as we were trying to bomb whatever it was. And he said, my job was to, at the end of the flight, get outside and open up the tail gunner hatch and clean my friend out of it because he'd been eviscerated. And so, I'm sorry, boomers, that your dads were drinkers, wouldn't let you watch the Ed Sullivan Show, and didn't realize that they had birthed such an important
They were witnessing the making of history. They probably didn't realize how important a thing was happening here.
Yes, your myopic-brained dad who, just was messing around in the 1940s and 50s, who wasn't as cool as you.
He didn't understand that you went through the JFK assassination, obviously.
Exactly. He didn't understand how important you are. And that all the stuff that he did, they were naive. They didn't have dropping acid back in the 40s, really. His dad was so uncool. Wasn't doing the free love thing in the middle of Woodstock. He was so unsophisticated. All his dad did was, after he was in World War II, bearing his vulnerable soul for the ages and essentially breaking his mind and body. his dad, all he did was put this guy through college so this guy could feel far superior to his dad.
Right. And now it was just interesting because what was the name of the other Beatles documentary, the Peter Jackson one? It's escaping me.
Get Back.
The Get Back documentary. That one was so good because Peter Jackson got the F out of the way and just let the footage really speak for itself. I mean, it was obviously very heavily edited down into a 3-part thing. And he created a narrative and everything using the footage that he had very selectively. But there weren't these extensive interviews with people unrelated to anything happening in the documentary about what was going on with them. Like, I didn't turn on the Beatles 64 documentary to hear from randos about their problems with their dad.
Yes, it's Beatles 64, not Joe Queen in 64. And that's the problem with the boomers, is it's all about them. It's all, at the end of the day, yeah, you probably want to hear about what this did for me. And here's Joe Queen. And so I've got a few of these people where this guy's just one of them. A few of these people who can't, by the way, we're doing a documentary about the Beatles, okay, guys? So remember, try not to steal spotlight. Try not to make it about you. Try not to be overly emotional or anything. Remember, this is just, eyewitness reports. No, boomers can't do that. Here's Joe Queen. In
December of 63. My sister had the radio on, and I heard "She Loves You."
He's quivering. Hello, Joe? He's now crying.
It's like the light came on. It's like the light came on.
Dad doesn't even realize that the light came on. He's still getting hammered, bitching about the Battle of the Bulge. Bitching about having to fight the Germans in Italy. Doesn't he know that She Loves You's on?
It's like total darkness. And then the light comes on. I was like, oh my God, this sounds good. Something for us.
Can you imagine, too? That before the Beatles, what was it like?
It was just total darkness. Nothing had ever sounded good before.
Nope. No. Until his generation of musicians finally turned the lights on. See, with the boomers, we've turned the lights on now.
Here's this thing that comes out of nowhere. I mean, that was one of the things that was so great about them was they were from Liverpool. We didn't even know where Liverpool was. I mean, they could have been from Mars. My father just said, "You're not."
Had you heard, by the way? Had you heard that they were from Liverpool?
That's all new to me. Wow.
No, he discovered they were from Liverpool. You wouldn't know it if it wasn't for his generation. Mm-hmm. Put Liverpool on the map, including everything else on the map.
On Ed Sullivan, full stop. I'm commandeering the television. You're not going to watch it. It's like, you're such a fucking dick. My father was an abusive alcoholic, and he beat up.
By the way, would Joe Queenan have the guts to tell his father to his face, "You're such a fucking dick"?
Of course not.
No. Can you imagine? In the safety of 2024, now that he's 76 years old, with his father not there to refute anything he said, his father who didn't cry during She Loves You, and who feels that the lights were turned on probably around the time he was 17, in a foxhole. Dad, the lights just got turned on.
A lot, but not letting us watch the Beatles was worse than that. You can get over beatings, but not letting us watch the Beatles. So my uncle, who was a Republican, none of us were Republicans, he sort of knew this is a big thing for these guys. So I went over to his house on that Sunday, and I think my older sister went. But the Beatles were kind of harmless and cuddly, but not to adults. Adults just saw this as the end.
They didn't get it. They're harmless and cuddly. Don't you understand? No, not to. Why are the adults portrayed as the bad guys?
It's funny, too, because the boomers are still sitting around here portraying adults as the bad guys, and they've been the adults for 50 years now.
Totally.
Stop.
Yeah,
you guys are the squares now.
Yeah, but
who
they don't
get the kids' stuff.
They don't think they are. They think they're always 25. That's why he says, "My dad was a dick." What are you talking about? He's talking like some kid on a skateboard.
Right, exactly. Hello, fellow kids.
They're going to subvert our youth.
What's the subversion?
They're encouraging you to have a good time.
Yeah, no one ever had a good time. They didn't know about that. The boomers
doesn't want us to have a good time. Can you imagine that? See our parents My dad was stoic, so he obviously didn't realize. You just unwind, dude. Just loosen up, man. I understand that 15 years ago you had to clean your friend out of the gun turret, but just, dude, have a good. You don't want us to have a good time? Imagine that condemning an entire generation, saying that they were mean because they didn't want their kids.
Yeah,
to
but
have
that's the way liberals still are now. By the way, it's interesting to me that part of what's happened under the Trump revolution is that so much of the shift has been with older voters who were always reliably Republican have shifted left because it is like this boomer generation is more left wing, and like younger voters now are more Republican than previous generations were at these ages, right? So it's interesting that they're now like the school marm, scandalized by the young generation. They're just scandalized by MAGA hats instead of by the Beatles, but they still don't think they are. They still think they're young and hip and they're fighting the man.
You totally. You can see that. You can see the juvenile aspect of it online, the way they post and the way they try to throw down.
And Morrison always talks about music as healing. That's what music
Crying
does.
again.
It stops the bleeding. My father never recovered from Kennedy's assassination, but we did.
Music stops the bleeding. My father, once again, never recovered from Kennedy because
He couldn't heal because he didn't like the Beatles.
Because the lights weren't on, because he never heard "She Loves You." Maybe your father saw some stuff in life, some real stuff, where you were palling around with your buddies listening to Beatles records. Like, he never healed from it. Why is that a condemnation of your father? You know, maybe he's seen some stuff. Maybe he went through some stuff. Maybe seeing another guy shot in the head was a little bit too much. You healed from it because you're vacuous and
because nothing
selfish.
happened to you.
Yes, exactly. Because your father wanted to make sure that what happened to him didn't happen to you. And your mother did too.
Right.
But no, can you imagine this? The arrogance of thinking that, to look at somebody who's provided for you, done all the right things, etc., for you, being an ingrate like that, and then looking and saying, Dad, you could be enlightened like me. You could be if you took some steps.
And the steps are not like get therapy. The steps are try listening to a Beatles record, man.
Right. And also,
like, I like the Beatles as much as a lot of people, but I'm not out here suggesting that if we all listen to Imagine a little bit more or She Loves You a little bit more, that like we could heal the world's pain.
Yeah. It's so emotional and unintellectual. It's like, was that what the 60s was? Does that mean that every boomer had to be feminized? Is that what that is? Turn the lights on. Freaking, his father had Sinatra. Okay, he had the Andrews Sisters. The lights were on. He was fine. They also fornicated back then. Oh, could you imagine how unbearable it was to have to deal with this first generation of know-it-alls? By the way, his father should be condemned for not beating him enough. I think we can agree on that. Okay,
True.
So let's bring us to our next guy here. This is Jack Douglas. I don't want to kill you with this, but this is a guy who's...
Had you ever heard of this incident before?
No, never heard of the incident, never heard of him. Had no idea. He apparently, this is the Forrest Gump of the 1960s. He was on everything. If you don't know about this guy, you are missing absolutely everything. I'm shocked that he is a musician and a producer and was in the record biz. I am shocked at this.
My buddy, Eddie Leonetti, I said to him, we should go to Liverpool and really do it. Let's go there. It'll be an adventure. We'll bring our guitars. We'll hang out at the Cavern. To get to Liverpool by tramp steamer was $112. We went down the Irish
By the way, at this point, both me and Alice are assuming that these people play a key role in the Beatles. That this is hugely important. That obviously this has to do with what did they come? Did they get the Beatles over here? Did they get them interested? Did they bring the first Decca audition tapes from the Beatles to Capitol Records in L.A.? Like, where do you matter in this story?
And I had a little radio, and I heard pirate radio, and it went out of my mind. There was the real sound of Mersey. I said, that's Liverpool. I could smell it. It was really the smell of diesel oil and dirt and grime, but it was
Okay,
pulled in.
why are you in this documentary right now? I need to know why you're in here. I'm assuming there's something intimate that's going to happen between him and the Beatles at some point.
And immigration came on board. And what are you two lads doing here? And we said the wrong thing. We've come to play. Do you have a visa at all? No. When this boat leaves in 5 days,
The Beatles will be on it, and you're going to meet them. And can you show them a riff? They need something to start. I want to hold your hand. Nope, none of that happens. There is 5 minutes of this guy
Right.
saying this yarn here that you would assume is going to land somewhere.
you will be on it. I was in the port of Liverpool. You know, I had to do something. So that night, crew member was sleeping. I took his coat and his cap.
So this is our first instance of things that didn't happen. He took no coat and no cap. But once again, anything that happened in the 60s is about the boomers themselves. It's all about it. Oh, you didn't hear the tale of the guy who took the coat and the cap in Liverpool? The Americans that went over there? Nobody heard the tale. But as long as there's a chance, a boomer will make it about themselves. Oh, there's an opportunity here. Wow. Oh, you mean the moon landing? I was with Eddie Lapidino, as a matter of fact. We hitched a ride on a truck, an 18-wheeler, and ended up in El Paso, as a matter of fact. And while there, we played this little cafe, and you could see on the TV they were suggesting, what is this? This is precisely cutting room floor stuff. You got to stop this interview and say, Jack, this is an
Can
interview.
we get to the part that's about the Beatles,
Right, this
please?
is about the Beatles.
And walked down the gangplank. Now I'm going to escape. Saw a bus that said Central Liverpool. And when I got off, I looked across the street, and there was a record store. A brand new album had just been released. And they had listening booths. About 6 people who couldn't afford to buy a record followed me in so I could listen to the record.
And then I took a shot at Queen Elizabeth. And then Prince Charles ran me over, and they dragged me 300 feet. And then the Beatles signed my cast. Okay, is that where it's going? Is there anything?
In the booth with these 6 Beatle fans, just dreaming and listening, and where that music came from.
Scorsese put this together. Do you owe these people money? Oh, the Beatles. Let me tell you about the Beatles. I went to a record store in Liverpool. Holy hell.
Where are the interviews with the other 6 people in the booth?
Could they not get them?
To be able to share that, to be able to play it. So I went into the Liverpool Echo, and I told the receptionist, I said, I'm an American musician being held captive on a ship in the harbor. They put us right on the front page. The next day, the Echo had hired these girls, and they came down and they marched up and down in front of the ship with signs that said, "Free the Yanks." Immigration.
Let me tell you something.
I'm wondering how much they fact-checked anything for this documentary
right.
to see
I have-
exactly what happened here.
In the story of the Beatles, the Free the Yanks thing it's not a thing. It's not a thing. I mean, you can make a better correlation between Nikita Khrushchev and the Beatles. Free the Yanks.
Came back on board, and they said to us, "We don't know how you did this, but like people are calling."
You are remarkable. People were coloring. It's Jack Douglas mania is happening out there.
They're saying, "How could you do this? These poor musicians, they just come here from America, kids." And so they said, "We're going to give you a 60-day."
Perpetually kids.
Hear this? We're going to give you a 60-day stay. They're allowed to stay for 60 days now.
But the boomers see themselves as kids. We were just kids.
Yes.
Perpetually kids
But
forever.
no playing. So we got in the band immediately.
You hear that?
And
You hear
No
the
playing, but they
conditions?
got in a band immediately.
Exactly.
Because they're rebels. These are real tough guys.
Exactly.
You're not going to tell me not to play in a band.
So we got in the band immediately.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Also didn't happen.
saying, "How could you do this? These poor musicians, they just come here from America, kids." And so they said, "We're going to give you a 60-day student visa, but no playing." So we got in a band immediately.
He loves that part of the delivery.
Oh, yeah, he's laughing at his own.
Of course we did. We're boomers. Of course, we got in the band immediately.
And we played. We hung out at the original Caravan Club. It was intoxicating. You could feel that the Beatles had been on this stage.
There we go. That is the eyewitness report. You could feel they had been on the stage. You could feel. Before they were on the stage, the lights were off. But you could feel that they were on the stage.
That long ago. Around 11 o'clock after some little gig we played in a pub, this guy came up to us and said, "Aren't you the two Yanks in the papers?"
Yeah, we're the
that's
two
us."
Yanks.
"Well, my friend is parked around the corner and he'd love to get an autograph." "No problem." We walk around the corner. It was immigration police. They threw us on the first
done
ship
in by their own
steerage
celebrity.
back to New York.
Because they couldn't just not play.
Well, right. And I mean, like, obviously people would want their autograph.
Yeah.
Come around this corner with me. We need your autograph. Oh, my autograph? Really? Of course.
There was
I'll be right there.
Nothing bigger in England in 1964 than American groups going over that way. There was nothing bigger.
Got a job down to a record plant.
Here we go.
And
We're now 3 minutes into it. This is now years later. You got a job down the record plant.
worked my way up, editor.
By the way,
Now,
we also could just start this right here if we wanted to.
go in there. It's the Imagine album. I'm in here with these tapes. It's all fucking magical. And the door opens up.
Youthful.
And there,
That's why, you know what? That's how you can tell he's still down.
Oh, because they swear.
Yeah. Effing
It's
magical.
the same with the other dude. My dad was such a fucking dick, man.
Yep.
So you can tell they're hip because they're not
He never
afraid
got
to
over
throw a
Kennedy.
swear in there.
there's Lennon standing in the doorway. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you mind if I come in here and just hang out for a little bit?" Because it was quiet in my room.
Even John Lennon was humbled by this guy. Something about his aura. He knew to be humbled.
And my heart, I almost peed myself. There he was in person.
I'm face right now.
He
Oh,
said,
my God.
"Can I sit down?" And I said, by all means. "I'm the guy editing your stuff." He said, "Yeah, thank you. You're doing a great job."
Because mostly,
sat on the
that
other
part's
side of
probably
my
true.
couch.
Because he's probably like, yeah, you're just the dude that they're having. Like,
Right. You're the dude who's
Push
going to
buttons.
be saying stuff to me in a second. I can feel it. I can see you. There's a story coming.
Yeah, good job, man. Good. Yeah, you're awesome.
There's a story
really well
that's
done
gonna come out of you
on
for a
editing my
moment.
album.
The story that's going to come out of you in a moment that's going to put you into my life
Is
somehow.
this guy credited on the Imagine album for all his production work, by the way?
It's too big for that. What do you mean? It's too big for that.
The console. And then finally, after a few minutes, I said to him, "I've been to Liverpool."
Oh, he must have loved hearing that. That's exactly what you want. A professional setting, by the way, where we're supposed to be doing music, is somebody pops Liverpool questions to John Lennon. Oh, really? Really? Was it great? Did you go to Strawberry Fields in Penny Lane?
Now his head popped up,
Yep.
and he looked at me.
So, by the
It's
way,
the first time he's heard that one.
exactly.
Nobody's ever brought up Liverpool to him
Wow,
before.
this guy is legit. He's been to Liverpool. By the way, this is Jack Douglas trying to tell you how impressed John Lennon was. That's what we get. It's not a play-by-play about the Beatles. Beatles in '64.
It's about how much John Lennon liked Jack Douglas.
Yeah, just take my word for it. But, he's not there to say anything, but he was very impressed. They were all very impressed.
And he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm born and raised, really, in New York area." "So why would you want to go to Liverpool? Everybody there wants to come here, including me. I'm here now,
These, by the way, things that John Lennon did not say. Absolutely not.
And it's not a great place, not a tourist spot." No, I said, "No, I was a musician, and everything was happening."
Remember Tony Lopalato and me got on the ferry?
He is actually credited on the album credits as an engineer.
Well, he was. You better believe he got his plaudits from a certain Beatle.
The music, for me, was that was the source. So he said, "Well, how did that work out for you?" And I said, "Well, good and bad." I said, "Bad, I was deported." He looked at me and I said, "But good, I made a lot of noise before they threw me out."
How long did he work on that line?
I was a badass. you
Made a
see.
lot of noise.
In case you may have heard of us. I do. If you haven't heard of us, I have the newspaper clippings.
And he looked at me and he said, "Were you one of those two crazy Yanks that were in all the papers?" And I said, "Yeah, that was me."
Or so I wanted that to happen that way. Mostly he just sat there and smoked as I yammered on.
Said, "We release a record, and in our hometown paper, you're on the front page." I said, "Sorry about that." He goes, No, we had all a good laugh about it. He said, this is really amazing. He said, of all the places I come.
Imagine John Lennon sitting down next to the guy who stole the Beatles' thunder in Liverpool.
I know. Of all the places, of all the people that he could run into, it's his stalker who is finding out everywhere he goes and following him.
This gets better.
I run into this guy that we kind of had a feeling for. So what do? I'm editing this. He goes, nah, you're one of the engineers now. I asked him once, I said, why, of all the people you could ask to produce you, why me? And he went like this.
Antenna.
I said, what's that? He said, good antenna. That's all it takes.
Or mostly you just like worked in that record place.
Exactly. And none of this other stuff happened, but you had to. But it was fortuitous that, you know, John Lennon's not here to be cross-examined by any of this stuff. But yes, imagine like, sitting down with this guy and having at least 5 minutes of stuff. It's not, and this is what, like, we were expecting more Beatles stuff, Beatles with Muhammad Ali, etc., and it was there.
You know that they had more footage that they could have done of the Beatles themselves for this documentary.
Okay, let's get to Jamie Bernstein. She's the daughter of Leonard Bernstein. Mm-hmm. She's perfect boomer, a kind of a lovely woman, dresses nice. She's got the perfect speaking intonation. She's absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. And by the way, like the other guy. Like the first guy,
Joe Queenan, and this last guy, whoever his name was, Jack Douglas.
They're extraordinary. You know, it's once again, it's like you tell them no playing music, or we're deporting you. We are playing the next day. That's how these boomers are. They want you to know.
You probably don't realize aspect to every word that comes out of their mouth.
Yeah, you don't know. These people are the original badasses. These are the original badasses.
I watched the Ed Sullivan Show in our dining room in our apartment with my family because the Ed Sullivan Show came on at, 8 o'clock, right in the middle of dinner. And I insisted to my parents, I'm sorry, this is a very important moment in my life, let alone in history. And we have to watch this on TV, even if it's dinner time. And so
I showed incredible leadership. I was defiant. Once again, my dad said, no, you're not. No, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
I was allowed to wheel in the little TV set from the library down the corridor and into the dining room and, arrange the antenna so that we could pick up the signal in there. And it wasn't coming in very well, but it came in on our little black and white TV set.
The story of the Ed Sullivan Show
is not the random people watching it at home.
Is not how you got the TV in the kitchen. It's not how you also were a hero to make that happen. How you made demands that day. You made, a lot of great things happened that day. The Beatles went to Ed Sullivan. They performed a couple of songs. They did a really good job. And Jamie Bernstein defiantly rolled the TV down. They all wheel themselves into history. The thing I did, I said to my dad, drunk dick. So my uncle, who was a Republican, but still, even he had some human characteristics.
Well, yeah, and there's an aspect to it. I think we might have named a show this at one point because I think I've brought this concept to you before. Are you familiar with the great man theory of history?
Negative.
So, the idea being that, individual people make history rather than, moments in time, right? So, in this case, for the history of the Beatles, I would say that, the Beatles couldn't have happened without the Beatles. Without John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George and Ringo, being in the right place at the right time and making that happen and making that particular music. But the boomers have the opposite view of history. They don't subscribe to the great man theory of history. They don't think, right? So, the classic example would be somebody like Napoleon. So much doesn't happen in Europe if you don't have a Napoleon. Whereas somebody who doesn't subscribe to that theory would say, well, the socioeconomic forces were there. Somebody else would have been a Napoleon if there wasn't a Napoleon. This idea that, individual people aren't making history happen, that it's, the movement, right? You see a lot of this debate even with Trump, right? like, it's not really about Trump. There's these forces, these societal forces. They're using Trump as an outlet. If there weren't a Trump, they would focus on somebody different. But like, so that's like what the boomers feel about the Beatles.
Oh,
that's their movement.
Yes.
It just happened to be expressed through the Beatles. But it's really about them. It's not like the Beatles did this moment in history.
No.
They all did. Yeah. I mean, I wheeled the TV and I was a part of it, right?
We were Beatles too. We were all...
If it wasn't the Beatles, it would have been something else. I mean, like, I wheeled the TV. We were all a part of this great historic moment. I stowed away on a ship and I hung out in Liverpool for 2 weeks. Like, come on.
No, that's exactly right. Exactly. We were all part of this thing. We were all part of this movement. And I'm going to tell you about how my part was. After the nation lost its what when JFK got shot?
Innocence.
That's right. It had its innocence before JFK got shot. Isn't that so wonderful? And that's why I think another thing is that progressives, boomers hate Trump so much, is that he is way off the playbook. Way off the
Oh, yeah.
You think Donald Trump's going to tell you that America lost its
Ironically, Trump
innocence
is a boomer.
yes, he is. But he's an apostate. That's the problem. He's not reading off the script.
Well, right. And Trump, like other people around Trump, you know, like I would say probably Robert F. Kennedy, like definitely Elon Musk. Trump and a lot of the people around him feel that they can make history go. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and so when I talk about like great man theory of history, that's exactly what I mean, because people like Trump say, oh yeah, well, I can just do it. I can just declare that we're going to annex Canada as a joke and no one can stop me. I can just threaten to retake the Panama Canal for the United States unless they drop their fees that they're charging us to use it. Did you see that he did that this week?
That he's going to take it, gype it back? Yeah.
He wants the Panama Canal back. I mean, on and on. Like, Trump just does stuff. Elon Musk just does stuff. A bunch of people, the people who make history happen, just go out and do things. The Beatles just went out and made a band.
Right.
They just actually did. They didn't goof around on boats and go to Liverpool to LARP.
Right.
They didn't stand around in the grocery store aisle having, I don't even think you played that clip of her yet.
I'm going to play it right now. Yeah.
Of Bernstein having an emotional moment because a song comes on.
I can't listen to the Beatles in a casual way. If I'm in the supermarket and they have some Muzak version of a Beatles song, it's like I have to stop in my tracks and just put my head down and wait for it to be over. It's like I can't think, I can't live if Beatles music comes on. It's too personal.
Even the music version makes her stop in her tracks. What a debilitating thing to have. Ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay?
I can't listen to the Beatles in a casual way.
You probably can because you don't have the same perceptions that I do.
Exactly. I'm a boomer. So yeah, if you're 37 or 47, right, I'm sure you can get through Beatles music without being stunned into temporary paralysis. I can't. Because I was part of the Beatles. I was a Beatle. We were all Beatles.
But it just tells you,
just listen to the effing song. First of all, you can, you do, you get through it. Everybody does. It's fine.
Yeah, we've all heard She Loves You enough times now.
The lights just came on again.
It doesn't emotionally hit us that way anymore. But it's fascinating because I know like Trump's a boomer and technically Joe Biden isn't even a boomer. Joe Biden's silent generation.
Right.
So he's even older than a boomer. But you know, there was just this other news story too about this Texas congresswoman. She's a Republican who she's been like MIA for 6 months. So they've all been like looking for her. Turns out her staff put her in a dementia home and they've just been like pretending that everything's fine.
She's not
and
here
like
right now.
tweeting
She just stepped
on
out.
her behalf. It's absolutely psychotic. Like all of Washington, D.C. is filled with old people, silent generation, boomers, like, and they think that this is all about them and that it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter if Joe Biden's actually like out of his mind because it's all about like the movement and the whole, like, it's all Brad, it's all nice and vibes. They don't have any sense, this group of people, that we need like real adults in charge. Because they find adulthood to be distasteful and like bad.
I agree. And I actually, we'll actually give Biden credit that he's not really. This ain't his game.
Well, no, but the people running the administration right now are.
Exactly. But I think Joe Biden can have a conversation about the 60s without making it about how he fixed it. Like how it was all his. It's a different swerve to him. He's a scoundrel and a corrupt thief and all that stuff.
Oh, and speaking of which, there's this news story about him that the Afghanistan, the Abbey Gate families are saying that he kept them waiting for 3 hours on the tarmac because he was napping in Air Force One. And that, it was clear to them when they met him that he was not in control of his faculties. And that they were concerned at that time, like, who ordered this withdrawal? What is happening? And it brings me to the point that, it's funny because it's funny, but it's also kind of completely unacceptable that really since that June debate, it's been clear to the American people and to the rest of the world, to other world leaders, to hostile foreign adversaries and stuff, that no one's in charge in the United States. And we specifically have a constitutional process to handle this. His cabinet and Kamala Harris, they could do something about this.
Yes.
Congress could impeach, and nobody in Washington, D.C. is doing anything about this because they're fine with it, because it doesn't matter to them.
Maybe I should revisit actually what I said, my evaluation of Joe Biden not having boomeritis, because he does actually think that he's the most capable.
Yeah.
And that is generational,
He thinks he's the greatest president ever.
Right. And he thinks he's the most capable.
He thinks Hunter's the smartest guy. Mm-hmm. And he thinks he's the most capable. And Jill Biden thinks he's the most capable and that she's the best first lady. And that her education degree is really prestigious.
She's also a boomer.
Yeah.
A real one.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
Okay, Alice, we have a lot of chat messages, so we should probably get to those. And, there we go.
Oh, Peter's here for the chat.
I see what's on his head. My son, but I'll put her on social media at some point. We're just about done here, James.
Peter, you want to sit with me?
All right, ready.
Hi.
There we go.
Oh, good job to me.
Thanks, Jamesy.
Do you have his cup that we brought in there with him?
You brought him a cup?
I heard an interview with Mike Lee,
It's green.
who nominated Vivek to be the new House Speaker, because I guess you don't need to be an elected official to be Speaker of the House. And I think that would be a perfect fit, because Vivek is one of those people who cannot stand government overspending and useless spending. And I think that having him there would give all of us as taxpayers a voice, because we will finally see what is going on with the government and all the useless spending that they have done over the years, and it would end the corruption and would kind of straighten out what's going on with our government. And I know that he and Elon and Vance and President Trump are going to focus on that for 4 years. But if you have a guy like Vivek as House Speaker, I think a lot of this bullshit will stop. So what do you guys think?
I mean, I agree. I think it would be fun. I think also House Speaker has a lot of parts of the job that are really, really tough and really specific to the House of Representatives, all this procedural
it's a
stuff
herding
and
cats
things.
thing too.
Yeah, I don't know that Vivek wants that headache.
You don't want him to be. It's a waste of his talents. I think he's a messaging guy, Vivek.
But I do agree that Vivek and Elon need to be empowered to blow this stuff up, because it's ridiculous. And, I mean, they're being ridiculous right now. The media is, the Democrats, they're all in on this childhood cancer research thing.
Right, trying to win over the budget battle. Yeah, I'm telling you, Alice, but that's yesterday's strategy.
Oh,
you calling them? You've been calling the guy who just won, and including the popular vote. You've been calling him and his boys Nazis.
Right.
So if you don't get the message yet, that shit is not working. It's over.
Right.
Bye-bye. You had the chance. You went back to the well one too many times.
Sad about Dan Crenshaw. He was supposed to be this new Republican type, who was going to fight for actual citizens. And instead, it's amazing to me that the swamp drags you in and changes you so quickly. It's invasion of the body snatchers down there. As soon as you get elected, you're all full of vim and vigor, and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then before you know it, a seed pod comes from outer space and takes over your body, and special interests grab you by the chiclets, and now you're trading stocks for millions of dollars because you've got inside information. Isn't it just wonderful? And all it takes is getting elected. That's it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah, Dr. Cheswick. Yeah, he also, another thing about him is, and I've liked him, I even liked him like a couple of months ago when he was on with Jamie Weinstein, and did that great defense of Trump. The problem is he's a prick, too. And there's others that have this, and I don't think it helps him. I don't think it helps you to be a prick. He's a prick. Rand Paul, I've been with before, has been kind of a prick. These people, they don't suffer fools, and they consider themselves highly elevated over the people they're talking to intellectually, and so they just come off badly. So it's a bad move. That's a bad move. I mean, who knows? I don't hate Crenshaw. He's fine. It is funny how he just flamed out. He was a Tucker guy like 4 years ago, right? All right. Let's see. Paul in the car.
Hey guys, Paul in the car.
Hey, Paul.
So there's nothing wrong with Dave Matthews Band or Fish. Nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's good music. No. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to
Rubbish.
Same thing goes for Taylor Swift. She's fine. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. I don't particularly like it, but my girls do.
The freaking Dave Matthews Band. This is a guy who pulls this crap, and what I can't stand is the 357,000 chord changes in the song, so he can just add more jazz. I don't like it. I think there's a certain strain of marijuana that came out in the 90s that made people decided it was smart and good music. It's rubbish. Sorry.
And I'll listen to it. So don't worry about it. It's fine. Just don't listen to it.
As far as Fish goes, Bouncing Around the Room is a good song. And I get Fish. They're not song guys. They're music guys. I get the people who jammed to the Grateful Dead wanting a band to jam to again. And they're all good at instruments. It's fine.
Are they from Massachusetts?
No, Vermont.
Like it. And I agree. Dave Matthews does wail and moan and whatever.
Yes.
Different style. He's fine. It's fine. Let's focus on the drones. Thanks, guys. See you.
Let's focus on the drones. That said, I will not ever say that Oasis is fine. They're not fine. They're rubbish. They're in. Can you stop attacking me, young man? My 2-year-old is trying to Godzilla smash the Roadcaster. I'm sorry. All right. Let's see. So you ready, Alice?
Mm-hmm.
Tom, it was absolutely funny that you had mentioned that your children are now saying, I get it.
They do.
Bit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I heard Alice say it probably 25 minutes into Thursday night's show.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that catchphrase of, I get it, it's a bit, is catching on.
It is.
It's huge in the Shattuck family. Huge.
I mean, good stuff.
As a matter of fact, like on this trip, if I say I get it, they'll all say it's a bit. Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
By the way, Michael Elliott Gordon of Fish.
Yes.
Sudbury, Massachusetts.
Oh, is he? I didn't
Yes,
know. Well, they got big at UVM, I'm pretty sure, on Church Street. And a great bar.
I only know that because one of my friends went to Lincoln Sudbury for a year, and she said they were all about that. Their connection to Fish.
Your child's gonna gulp that can. Okay, let's write down.
You know, that abject a-hole who said, I should have pushed harder when I knew things weren't going well. But I was making money, and the White House is the White House.
Who is that prick? That's the guy.
Is that Saliza?
Saliza, yeah. Total prick.
Fecklessly weak pissants just make me sick.
Correct.
I love that 50 people interviewed by the Wall Street Journal said, no, that dude, his brains are literally leaking out of his feet. And we had to carry him from place to place. That's who was your figurehead in your government. It's disgusting.
Damn straight, Dr. Cheswick.
Anything for power and money. 47.
47 seconds.
Oh, I thought that was going to be a reference to our next president, 47. As in Kamala's going to be 47 before Trump gets in there to be 48.
Hey, guys, Paul in the car.
Hey, Paul.
The daylight savings topic. Alice, I'm with you. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't understand why people can't grasp. I think Stephen Gloucester was saying something about I'd rather it be later at night. And Steve in Gloucester, I'm sorry if I'm mischaracterizing your comment, but I think it was you. You're right, Alice. If we borrow from the night, we lose it in the morning.
Right.
It's just the way it works with the sunlight. It's the same.
That's why, Paul, I want all the good hours to be in daylight. That's why.
The sunlight.
But I think that's where we just, some people like some hours more than other hours. Like we just have a disagreement about who likes what hours. So.
I want 5 prime meridian to be bright. Can I have that?
It always is anyway.
No, it's not.
I just don't want it to be light out at like 9 o'clock.
At night?
Yeah, I want it to be more light in the morning when I get up and I'm doing things.
Savings was not a hoax, but a crock of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the swearing.
It's okay. There's a lot of swears in this episode.
That's a way to paraphrase it. So I'm with you. And your passionate yelling and screaming over Tom's 24 Alice's was fantastic. So good job. Keep it up. See you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Paul, appreciate it.
I can feel it in my toes. Winter's here, baby. I thought you should know. Santa's not the only one who's coming tonight.
I don't know what that means necessarily. It is
By
cold,
the way,
though.
on the daylight savings topic, Todd on Twitter, who's been a very long time listener, would like you to know that it was his comment that
Your
I
hound
was
is about to
talking
maul
like
everybody
somebody
in the room. So
I was talking like somebody who wasn't trying to play golf at 6 p.m., which is absolutely accurate.
Yes,
I'm
you
not
are. Yes,
trying to
you
play
are.
golf
Yes,
at
you
6
are.
p.m.
You have very important things
and
to do.
that is credit to Todd. And Todd has been commenting on the Burn Barrel podcast episodes since the Gen X Needed a Life Preserver episode, which he thoroughly panned.
What?
So,
how would you pan? How dare you? That was great. That was Cobra. Marion Cobretti.
Mm-hmm.
Got a life preserver. No, why? Your French fries are drowning. Any closing remarks,
thank
Mr.
you
Shattuck?
so much for listening, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us on the road, in the hotel, with or without good enough internet to stream. We appreciate you. We are going to be in Avon at the Avon Old Farms Hotel tomorrow, live streaming from 11 to 2 for the Salvation Army. Come visit us, and if not, we will have a show again tomorrow night.